So I just finished watching the Professor Barry Wellman article, and I just wanted to talk about some of the things I thought were interesting. One concept that he brought up pretty early was how telephones were once used to connect to all members of the household. Now, everyone is connected individually through cell phones, private pages, profiles, and the internet. I think that's very true because I do remember getting phone calls to the house, and um, like even then they were still, of course, addressed to some particular individual and not everybody, but everybody is actually who's getting the phone call, since anyone can pick up the phone. um, uh, One thing that I thought was really important that he said is he basically defeated the idea that people only connect through online means, if once they have that, because everybody who connects online seems to actually know most of the people they connect to physically. Obviously, there are outliers in that, Manti Te'o case in particular. Um, but yeah, I think that's true as well because I have very few friends, even when, like, as an early adopter to Facebook, I rarely would just add people because of the fact that we were in the same, UNC network or Riverside or whatever school. And mostly it was people meeting people and then getting their names, and now I have your Facebook, and now we'll connect. So it's kind of both sides. It's you come in knowing the person physically, or you learn the person physically after having a connected interest. Rarely do people just exist anonymously to one another. He also brought up that gamers are the only ones who don't seem to do that, but that made me think of, like, why would that be? Why might that occur? And I guess it's kind of, as a gamer personally, it's kind of something that always happens. People, with video games, kind of make that their separate personality. With Facebook and things, people tend to make it mostly about themselves. It's their real life, their real networks, their real school. With gamers, it's just like completely a made up avatar, a made up name that shouldn't have anything to do with your real name, so that people can be, unfortunately, as ridiculous as they want to be on the internet. They never have to worry about, like, if I talk junk, this guy is going to come to my house and beat me up or something. So yeah, it seemed like a combination of anonymity, domination, isolationism, all of which lead into that difference of gamers, one, not wanting to communicate with one another and not having to. The overarching argument of his talk was the widespread connectivity and mobility and the effects of that. Um, Brought up automobile and airplane trips becoming more and more affordable, creating dispersed social networks. So people, telecommuting, businesses sending people all over the world. It's still that same network, and now that network is even bigger because of these technologies that we have. He talked about how there's fewer international conflicts right now, meaning ones between different countries, mostly just inner country problems that they deal with themselves. And I don't know exactly how true that is. It's one thing I learned about in my different classes and things I've taken is that, one side effect of the internet, where people think that we get more news or that we get a lot more information from a wider array of networks, we actually still end up, people in the US look to US news and want to see what the Kardashians are doing and stuff like that, rather than looking at what's going on in Quebec right now, or Tajikistan, or wherever in the world. And that's also a byproduct of the media itself, because news doesn't pay as much for foreign information because there aren't many people consuming it. Which brings directly one of the other things you talked about. Most of the people on the planet are consumers rather than producers of information, which is obviously true because, there are only so many Steve Jobs and Bill Gates in the world, but there are billions of people waiting, lines and lines at Apple stores for the latest iPod or iPad whenever it comes out. So I think that's a pretty easy argument to make. Let's see. He also brought up the kind of false uh, idea that people get about cell phones, children particularly, because children seem to think that when they get a cell phone, it allows them to be more independent. They can make calls when they want to, whom they want to, but in reality, it's actually an electronic leash. When parents call their kids on their cell phone, they expect them to answer that cell phone, and they're basically more accountable. They have to be at a certain place all the time because you always have your cell phone on you. So um, I think that's true of kids as well as adults. We still do it, and if it's during work hours and you get a call from the boss, you're expected to be on wherever your cubicle is, or at least accessible through phone. So that's also true. We're expected to be available and answer our phones and texts within minutes of receiving them. Excuse me. Um, Basically, um, let's see. Okay, then another thing he talks about is more bit workers than atom workers, and the difference being moving information around rather than moving physical products or doing something with physical products, which made me think immediately about the Jetsons, because like George Jetson's job is basically to push a button all day. And if you really think about it, if you extend that metaphor, that's pretty much what most people do today, whether you're a secretary or anything that you have to do relating to computers. All of those are just literally ones and zeros, but with a visual interface to make you feel better about it. So it's interesting, but like I think it's just natural, the evolution into things, because the more we can build things to do that physical work for us, or have different outlets. Now that we have, he brought up the interconnectedness of the planet. Now that we can get fruit and all these different entities from other locations. Now, if we are in America and we don't grow as much of our food, then like one of the things that happens is we become like the world, not for the world, but like a lot of our people, our students in school are taught to be managers and how to do things with data, rather than taught to do like labor jobs like sewing and the things that we go to other countries and outsource for. So I mean, there's a lot to be talked about there. Um, which kind of gets into what he says, Wellman's law of media conservation, the golden rule. Um, yeah, if you want someone to help you with something, you have to help them. I think we all know that's true. It's a pretty facile argument. I didn't think there needed to be any data. It's just kind of an empirical statement we all accept to be true. um, and yeah, his final point was pretty much about political correctness. If only lesbians with one finger can talk about lesbians with one finger. We're all individuals. We all have things that individualize us. But like if we say that we're the only person who can talk about us, then who speaks for the alien? Who speaks for people that can't speak? And so I think it's important that Like, while everyone should be respectful of other people's culture, I think it's important to gender that with, like, you can't know another person's culture without interacting with it. So rather than assuming they're, wrong for anything and everything they say or do about you, try to help educate those people. So, but yeah, overall, I thought it was a very interesting video, especially from someone of his age. Thought that was pretty impressive that he's well versed in Twitter and all the little. I mean, I guess as a sociologist, it's his job to keep up with that stuff, but I still thought it was interesting. So.